common question I get is, what do you charge for private lessons? So in today's video, I'm going to go through the 4 factors that I consider before I set my rates. I'm Shannon Caldwell, founder of Purple Lotus Yoga, where I help women of all sizes and ages become standout yoga teachers. After teaching yoga and training teachers for 20 years, I've learned that a successful practice is more than about forcing your body into impossible shapes. It's about creating an environment, an inclusive environment that allows for a whole life transformation. For the best tips and advice on teaching yoga and deepening your practice, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get my latest uploads. When it comes to setting your rates for private yoga or one-on-one session, there are 4 factors to take into consideration. The first I want you to think about is location. And this is in terms of where are the private lessons going to be held. Is this going to be in your home? Is this going to be in the client's home? Is it going to be at an outside place like a gym, a yoga studio, a church, or some other kind of facility? If you're doing it in your home or the client's home, then there's likely not going to be that additional charge of having to rent space. But if you're needing to use an outside facility, there is probably going to be a cost associated with renting that space for the hour-long session that you're doing. So you want to make sure that you're including that cost when you're setting your rates. How far are you going to have to drive to get to where you need to do that session? Is it close by, or are you going to have to drive 30 minutes in traffic? How much gas are you going to be spending in order to get to that location? And the second factor is going to be prep time and duration. How long does the client want to go for a private session? Do they want to do 45 minutes? Do they want to do 60, 75, or even longer? I will say that the average that I've come across is right around an hour. Usually people want to meet for about an hour. Prep time, you want to take into account, does your client have any special needs? Are you going to have to do some outside research to feel prepared and comfortable for providing yoga lessons to that individual? Region. This is something that I always encourage my clients to do all the time, is to do some market research. What is the market charging in your area? What are other teachers charging for private lessons? Another thing that I compare to is, what are massage therapists charging in your area for around the same time? So typically here in this area, massages are either 60 minutes or an hour and a half. What do people charge for that? And then try to compare to that. Another thing about region is, if you're going to be city versus country, if you're doing a lesson that's more in an urban area, that's going to bear a little higher price than if you're located in a more rural setting. So region plays a factor. Also, I know I have a few individuals in the collective who are not here in the U.S., so that's going to go into consideration too, because other countries may have a higher cost of living, and you may need to factor in a little bit more based on where you are in the U.S. East Coast, West Coast usually is going to be a little bit higher than the Mid-America, Midwest, and then other countries may have a higher cost of living too to factor in. The fourth factor that I want you to think about when you're looking for what to charge for private lessons are the clients themselves. One-on-one, that's pretty much what it says on the box. It's going to be you and one other person. But a lot of times a private lesson can be a couple or partners. They live in the same house and the payment's going to be coming out of the same pocket. So a lot of times if it's just a one-on-one or if it's a couple, I may charge around the same rate. Sometimes if it's a couple, I may add $5 or $10, just depends. If you're doing something that's closer to what I call semi-private, which is 2 people, 3 people with a max of 4, then I'm definitely going to have my base rate, and then I'm going to add on $5, $10 per person who's being added into that. The other thing to think about with your clients is, again, their needs. What are they coming to you for? Are they just wanting some general yoga lessons to get familiar with postures and breathing without having to be thrown into the deep end of a group class? Or do they have some really specific needs? They move slower, they have an injury that they're having to deal with, they have they need variations and lots of help in order to make that accessible to them. Those are all things, again, that you want to think about when you're setting your rates for private lessons. So those are our 4 factors to think about. We've got location, we've got prep time, region, and then the clients themselves. If you have any questions about setting rates for private lessons, leave a comment below and I'll be happy to answer them.